Let's get right into it. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking some absolutely wild, paradigm-shifting research from renowned endocrinologist Dr. Robert Lustig. We're going to explore a radical concept, the idea that our biological systems, literally our brains and bodies, have been systematically hijacked by the modern food industry. Buckle up, because we are totally unmasking the myths you've been fed about diet, health, and weight loss.
Seriously, think about this. What if everything you've been told about losing weight is just a lie? What if the exhausting, age-old advice of, hey, just count your calories, is not just unhelpful, but scientifically false? For decades, we've been led to believe that weight gain is simply a math problem of, gluttony and sloth. Eat less, move more. But Dr. Lustig's research reveals a much darker reality. Our bodies aren't failing us. They're being actively hacked.
Okay, let's dive into this because this next number is just staggering. 73%. That is the percentage of all items in your typical grocery store that are spiked with added sugar. 73%. And it's not just there for taste. It is there to intentionally drive consumer addiction. The grocery store is essentially a minefield, engineered by an industry that knows exactly what happens to your brain when they sneak sugar into your food. You simply buy more of it.
Section 1. The Great Health Hack. To understand exactly how we're being manipulated, we have to see how this hacking of our minds actually starts. It begins with a deliberate, manufactured confusion between two very, very different biochemical states. Basically, we've completely conflated pleasure with happiness. Think of it like this. Pleasure is the sprint, happiness is the marathon. Biologically, they're driven by entirely different neurotransmitters. Pleasure, that's driven by dopamine. It's short-lived, it's visceral, and most importantly, it's an excitatory neurotransmitter. Because it overstimulates neurons, your brain actually protects itself by downregulating receptors. This means you need more and more of the stimulus just to get the exact same feeling. That is the literal definition of addiction. Happiness, on the other hand, is driven by serotonin. It's long-lived, calming, and inhibitory, meaning it doesn't downregulate its own receptors. You literally can't be addicted to happiness. So the massive hack here is that the food industry profits immensely by selling us cheap, dopamine-driven pleasure, all cleverly disguised as serotonin-driven happiness. And the real tragedy? The more pleasure you seek, the more unhappy you biologically become.
Moving on to Section 2, the calorie myth. Let's permanently debunk the whole societal belief that a calorie is just a calorie. We're going to look deep inside our cellular engines. We constantly hear that sugar is just energy, right? Well, actually wrong. Table sugar, or sucrose, is made up of two different molecules, glucose and fructose. Glucose is the energy of life. Every cell on the planet burns it. Your brain runs on it. It stimulates your mitochondria to work efficiently. But fructose, the sweet half of the sugar molecule, is a completely different story. Fructose actually inhibits three crucial enzymes inside your mitochondria. It literally shuts down your cell's ability to create chemical energy. So it doesn't act like a food that fuels you at all. It acts way more like a localized toxin in the liver, metabolizing almost identically to alcohol.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer scale of the overdose happening every single morning. A child's liver has the innate biological capacity to safely process about 12 grams of fructose per day. But get this, a standard national school breakfast program meal, think a bowl of Fruit Loops and a glass of orange juice, delivers 41 grams of sugar. That is nearly 4 times a child's safe biological limit. It's acting as a massive systemic overdose that drives severe metabolic, neurological, and behavioral issues like ADD and depression.
Section 3. Sugar, insulin, and fat.
So what actually happens to all that excess sugar? We need to look at the true biochemical reality here, the real mechanism behind weight gain and metabolic illness. The first thing you absolutely need to know is that the bathroom scale lies to you. Dr. Lustig highlights this medical concept called TOFI, thin on the outside, fat on the inside, or what's commonly known as being skinny fat. You can have a totally normal weight, look perfectly thin on the outside, but still be incredibly seriously sick on the inside. How is that possible? Well, because not all fat is created equal.
It turns out our bodies have 3 distinct fat depots. First is subcutaneous fat, which is the fat right under your skin. Believe it or not, this is relatively safe. Your body can store about 10 kilograms of it before you get sick. Second is visceral, or belly fat, which is largely driven by stress and the hormone cortisol. You only need to gain about 2 kilograms of this to become metabolically ill. But the third depot, that's liver fat, and this is the scary one. It only takes 1/4 of a kilogram, just over half a pound of liver fat to make you severely metabolically ill. And what drives liver fat? You guessed it, sugar and alcohol. And this brilliantly illustrates the vicious cycle we get trapped in. When you consume sugar, it spikes insulin, which is the energy storage hormone. Meanwhile, you have another hormone called leptin. Leptin is basically your body's energy thermostat. Its whole job is to go to your brain and say, hey, we have enough stored energy, stop eating, let's get off the couch. But excess insulin literally blocks the brain from seeing that leptin signal. So your brain, it thinks you are starving. It commands you to eat more and to conserve energy by being lazy. The gluttony and sloth that people get blamed for are not character flaws at all. They're the direct biochemical results of high insulin blocking your leptin.
Section 4. The invisible saboteurs.
Now, it's not just the sugar we intentionally eat that's messing with our biology. Have you ever heard the term obesogen? These are sneaky little chemicals in our everyday environment that literally act as endocrine disruptors. They mimic our hormones. We're talking about stuff like BPA on standard paper store receipts, PFAS on non-stick Teflon pans, and phthalates in plastics. These chemicals interact with our cell receptors and independently command our bodies to differentiate and grow fat cells, meaning they cause weight gain completely independent of the calories you consume. Insane, right?
And then, oh man, we have the dietary Trojan horses. These are products marketed as super healthy that are secretly destroying our metabolic health behind our backs. Take diet sodas. The sweet taste still triggers the brain to release insulin, which drives fat storage, while the artificial sweeteners actively destroy your healthy gut microbiome. Or take juice beverages. When the food industry blends or squeezes an apple into juice, they strip away or completely destroy the fiber. And fiber is absolutely crucial because it acts as food for the 100 trillion bacteria in your gut. Without that fiber, that juice is just a rapid-fire fructose bomb hitting your liver. It turns a piece of real food into a literal metabolic poison.
Section 5. Reclaiming your health.
Okay, I know, it sounds super grim, but despite this massive hacking of our environment and food supply, there is a scientifically backed way out of this mess. Dr. Lustig and his team developed what they call the metabolic matrix. It's incredibly simple. To figure out if something is truly a healthy food, it just has to do 3 things: protect the liver, feed the gut, and support the brain. If a food fulfills these 3 criteria, usually by being low in sugar and high in fiber, it is healthy medicine. If it fails these 3, it's poison. Period. No matter what fancy holistic health claims are printed on the packaging.
And to combat the mental health toll of our modern environment, Dr. Lustig actually prescribes the 4 C's for contentment. First, connect. We're talking true face-to-face eye contact, which triggers mirror neurons and boosts your serotonin. Second, contribute. Give to others with real purpose. Third, cope. Engage in sleep, mindfulness, and exercise to actively lower that cortisol. And finally, cook. Eat real, unprocessed food that contains tryptophan and omega-3s, which are the literal biological building blocks of happiness. These 4 actions actively lower your stress, repair your hacked biochemistry, and replace that cheap, fleeting dopamine with true, lasting serotonin. It all really boils down to this fundamental, powerful truth from Dr. Lustig. Food can be medicine, food can also be poison. That right there is the ultimate insider secret to reclaiming your health from an industry that literally relies on your confusion and your addiction to make a profit. If it supports your cellular engines, it's food. If it suppresses them, it's poison.
So armed with all this new knowledge, I want you to ask yourself, what are you going to choose to put on your plate tomorrow? Are you going to continue to let your biochemistry be hacked by an industry that's optimizing for shelf life over human life? Or are you going to take back control of your metabolic destiny by choosing real, unhacked food? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember, always keep questioning what you consume.